now is a very hard time for as for performance, but also for the audience. And recently you have said that you've been lied to because in the play everyone can sit next to each other, and in the concert hall there have to be empty places between the people. And so how do you think, what should we all do as people who think that the culture and the art are precious? What should we do to overcome this situation?
I think that we have to find a way to discuss things with each other without having prejudices. I think it's important as a society to accept different opinions, and it has to be possible to speak about things. And as you say, why can we sit in the airplane next to each other but in the concert hall not? There's no real explanation for that. So we have to discuss about it, we have to speak about it.
Where were you caught with this whole quarantine thing? Where were you, and from where did you have to come back home?
In fact, I was in Rio de Janeiro, and I had rehearsed Beethoven Violin Concerto with the orchestra of Rio de Janeiro, and half an hour after the rehearsal, the concert for the next day was cancelled. At the same day, the news was that South America would cut all flight connections with Europe. So I had to rebook my flight, which was very difficult because you could reach nobody on the airline's phone, or you could not do it on the internet either. It was quite an adventurous trip because I had to go to the airport directly, change it. Then my flight was cancelled again. Then I was booked on another flight. It was cancelled again. So I was actually, for 3 days, I was waiting to get back to Europe. And after all, I managed via Paris. And I arrived in Paris, and while in Brazil, everything was still more or less normal because it was everything kind of far away. In Europe, and I didn't expect that, it had hit in already. So I arrived in Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, and there were maybe 200, 300 people, just one coffee shop open, and people started to fight who gets a coffee. It was quite disturbing.
So your teacher was the student of David Oistrakh, and can we somehow include you into the Odessa school?
Well, if you do, that would be a big honor. Somehow I think all violinists come from a certain school, and everything now is getting mixed up. But I was very fortunate, actually, yes, that I do have some direct traditional line, and it is something important to cherish, and I think also to pass on, which I try to pass on to my students.
So you are the artistic director of many festivals, but one of them takes place on Ibiza, and so for such an extravagant place, will you prepare something special?
Well, this year not, because we had to cancel the festival completely, unfortunately.
В этом году, к сожалению, нет, потому что нам пришлось отменить фестиваль.
Yes.
А вообще? But in general?
In general, I mean, it's a very special place, as you know, and classical music, you don't really think that is part of Ibiza. It's more like the DJ scene, the clubbing, techno parties. But that's why, especially that's why I thought we have to do, or I have to do, a classical music festival there. And it is really wonderful to see that people are so open to classical music, and within only 2 editions it became actually part of the island, and it has become gotten many fans. Yeah, it is also especially fun for the musicians to come there, because we are very serious about the music. But the day after the festival, it has already become a tradition that I take the musicians on a boat trip around the island, and I even made my driving license for boats. So it has come with many other good things.
And so yesterday you were at the concert.
Yes.
And what do you think about Ukrainian composers? Because some say that their music is very similar or has some traits of the music of Mozart. Do you know the Ukrainian classical music tradition very well, or was it something new for you?
Well, I didn't know the music of this period of Mozart, and I was very surprised how beautiful it is. And I must say, at the beginning, I thought it sounded a bit like a mix of Mozart and Haydn. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, it was a fantastic discovery for me.
Can you please tell more about your relationship with your instrument?
Well, relationship is something quite special. Every violin is special, not only such a valuable one. And the more you play on it, the more you grow together. And it does become part of your soul, if there is something like a soul. And it's the tool to express myself, to express all that I feel in music. And it's very hard to explain, but yes, it becomes a part of you.
If this is the big violin, the important violin, your violin, doesn't it happen the same way that it happened for the portrait of Dorian Gray, when like there was the portrait who was taking all the traits of the person, and doesn't the violin take the traits of your soul, of your personality? Doesn't it also become you?
Yes, but we cannot have any proof of that.
Да, но у нас нет никаких доказательств этого.
But what I can say is that when I was many years ago in the house of a friend who is a fantastic violinist as well, I left my violin and I went out for 1 hour. And when I came back, I continued to practice. And something was different. It was still my violin, but something was different, especially at the beginning. The sound it changed a little bit. And I told my friend, I don't know why. I didn't play for 1 hour. And he said, well, when you went out, I played on it. So something did happen with the instrument, and I realized without knowing that he played on it. That means, yes, I think it takes also the traits of the player, and whoever plays on it, it develops differently.
Speaking about today's concert, when you've learned that you have to change the program, how long did it take you to change it, and what did you feel about it?
И почему именно эти произведения?
And why the pieces that you are going to play tonight are the pieces that you've chosen?
Well, if you have no other choice, then it's easy to decide.
Когда у тебя нет другого выбора, это очень легко принять решение.
So Maestro Botvinov called and said we have to play recital instead, and yeah, we talked a little bit, and one Beethoven sonata should be, because it's Beethoven's year actually, yeah. Unfortunately, it's more Corona year, but actually it's Beethoven's year. And so we decided for one Beethoven sonata and the Frank Sonata. It's the end of the festival, and this is one of the major sonatas for piano and violin, and the audience always loves this piece, and we love it to play it. That's why.
And so it is known that you were the one who helped the world discover the music of Weinberg, and you were one of the founders of the society dedicated to Weinberg. And so what are the main directions that you work on right now, and main projects or main plans? And of course we remember your coming with Weinberg's music.
Yes. Well, I continue to promote Weinberg's music and to perform it as much as I can. I was supposed to perform 3 concerts in London at the Wigmore Hall. Last year I already performed 3 concerts only with Weinberg's music, to bring all the violin works on stage. So we called it a Weinberg Focus Day. So this year would have been the 2nd time, but unfortunately we had to postpone it. I performed the violin concerto with big orchestra several times now, and I must say that every time the audience is so touched that it just confirms my belief in this music.
Many musicians, they have the pieces that follow them during their whole performing life. For example, Alexei Botvinov has the second concerto of Rachmaninoff. And do you have such a piece, or do you have many of them? Would you list them and maybe tell the story behind it?
Well, now since more or less or almost 10 years, it's the Weinberg Violin Concerto, but sure there are others. It's what I was supposed to play here. The Mendelssohn Violin Concerto was actually the first piece I played with orchestra when I was 11 years old. And so this is always fantastic to come back because I have so many memories.
You performed with many piano players, with many orchestras, with many ensembles. What is the most important for you in a partner such as the piano player, the conductor, the orchestra, the ensemble? What is the most important trait for you?
I think most important in music is that you give the other person, be it a pianist or conductor or even an orchestra, to see as one person, enough space to be as he or she is. Because only then you can be as you are. And to give this freedom, I think this is the most important. And then when you give this freedom, you get so much freedom. And that is a very beautiful thing.
This year, our festival, which is ending today, has happened not thanks to, but despite of everything. And do you think it was the right decision made by Alexei to finally make this festival this year possible despite everything? And what do you agree with the idea that classical music heals everything? And if you think that this emotional breakthrough was important, why?
I think what Alexei Botvinov did is not only a very wise decision, but it is a very human decision for us musicians to be able to go on stage again, for the audience to come together, which is different than just putting something in the loudspeaker at home. And I think to enjoy music together, to make music for an audience, this is what we really need. It's like food. It's food for the soul. And therefore, I can only thank Alexei Botvinov that he went through this really not easy task, and he organized this festival.
What do you dream of?
Freedom.
Svoboda.
The freedom to decide myself again what is good for me.
Я мечтаю о свободе самостоятельно решать, что хорошо для меня.
Because when you asked me 6 months ago, I would say good health.
Потому что если бы вы спросили меня 6 месяцев назад, я бы сказал, что я мечтаю о хорошем здоровье.
I must say I changed my mind.
Вы знаете, я изменил свое мнение.
I think freedom is more important than anything. The freedom to decide yourself what is good for your health also.
Мне кажется, что самое важное это свобода принимать решение о том, что хорошо для меня и что хорошо для моего здоровья.
And you ask me what I dream of. You can only dream of things you don't have.
И вы спрашиваете меня о том, о чем я мечтаю. Дело в том, что мечтать можно только о тех вещах, которых у нас нет.
And we don't have freedom now.
И у нас сейчас нету свободы.
In some countries more, in some countries less. But we have to be aware that we have to fight again for our freedom.